the director for 20 years now, right, Tom?
Yeah, that's about right.
I want to ask you a bit about MUFON. Like, we haven't discussed disclosure. Of course, all of us want disclosure. You know, the government suppressing it, and the government would try to create misinformation or suppression of the truth. When I first got into ufology seriously in 2006, someone told me, "Yo, MUFON's infiltrated by intelligence, you know, like the CIA. They're trying to misdirect." I thought, "Oh, really?" You know, and I never looked seriously into it. But this is the kind of thing any of us should consider. I'm just wondering if that ever happened since 1969, in your view.
People are always talking about that. The reality is that MUFON is basically a publicly accessible organization. Anybody can pay the dues and become a member. And if that person is a CIA agent, they're still going to become a member.
Right.
We don't screen people and say, "Oh, that person's an NSA agent. We can't let him in the organization." Sorry, that's not the way it works. It's if somebody's got the money to pay the dues and wants to join MUFON, all they have to do is submit their application, pay the money, and they're a member. That's all there is to it. I've talked to people at MUFON symposiums that said that they were CIA, you know, but the CIA has all kinds of people. They don't all go out and do ultra spooky clandestine operations. They have people that work at desks and analyze intelligence material that they get from different places. And I don't really know what this guy's thing was. He just said he was a CIA agent, and we talked to him quite a bit, and we think it's true. But he wasn't trying to get secret stuff on anyone. I mean, if someone from the CIA was trying to accomplish something in MUFON, they wouldn't get very far. I mean, it's just a big club of people that are interested in UFOs, but it's more specialized because they actually have different special roles, investigators and people that direct and control investigations and all that kind of stuff. I just don't see that people like that would accomplish anything. I mean, I know the story of NICAP, but that was a different time and a different kind of feeling culturally in the country.
That was in the early 60s, right? I got their big book of 7,500 cases, that one?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. NICAP. Well, I mean, the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena was the name of it. And it, I mean, one of their most senior and high-level members was Roscoe Hillencutter, and he was the first director of the Central Intelligence Agency. He was also an admiral. I mean, if you really study this stuff, you can start to see patterns. He was also supposedly a member of the Majestic 12. But one of the things that we've learned, and now that all this stuff, you know, the Tic Tac video and all that stuff's come out since 2017, it's really important to pay attention to the fact that all these things happened on Navy ships to Navy pilots, and that the CIA was born out of naval intelligence. And a lot of people don't understand that. It really came out of naval intelligence. The Air Force, it's almost a joke the way the Air Force has dealt with UFOs through the years. All those projects, Project Blue Book and all the predecessors, they were, when you go back and you study the history of those things, it's pathetic. I mean, they were like, the only thing that they did that was even the remotely sensible was that they picked all the best cases and secretly channeled them to the intelligence agencies. And even though we don't like the fact that they did that, still it makes sense if you look at it from a military and defense point of view. But now, since the whole, you know, the AATIP news broke and all this, I think we're seeing some real disclosure, and it's really something that has legs, and it's going to keep on going.
Yes.
Because it really hasn't stopped. I mean, we can see that you know, the naval intelligence people, they fessed up to it. They say, yeah, this is really something that really happened, and the stories that the pilots are telling are true, and they haven't tried to deny it. I mean, for a while they tried it, but that ended really quickly, and they finally came out and said, yeah, we believe it. It really has happened. What do you have there? Project Blue Book?
What do you have there?
And this is a Project Blue Book special report number 14, published in 1955. This was secret, and somehow Stanford Friedman or someone got out in the late 1990s. But this is very good, like 3,201 cases, and about 21% are genuine unknowns, with the charts and graphs. Stanton Friedman said this was like one of the best scientific, like large-scale scientific studies of UFOs. So he thought this was one of the very best sources. But I guess
you know what else he said? He said, "What happened to Blue Book reports number 1 through 13?
Aha,
where are they?
Those are secret." Yeah. Well, my question about the CIA is more of more intelligence, one of infiltration, like directing an organization, whether it's NICAP or MUFON, like maybe directing people more to nuts and bolts, and not try to really understand what's the meaning of abduction and hybrids and grays and the direction where all this is going. Could they have some influence or control in terms of, and they tend to do things indirectly or subtly or some kind of guiding. You don't think there's anything like that happening in MUFON or in the past?
I don't think it's significant, because the board of directors, MUFON's really controlled by a board of directors. And I know I've met and talked to many of the people on the board of directors, and they're all pretty good, solid people that are really, you know, have the best interests of MUFON and the members at heart, and want to see the organization succeed. They're just, you know, good, solid people. I mean, we did have a guy that used to be on the board named Tom Bowden, and he was a retired NSA agent, but he actually is retired, so he's not on the board anymore. But he didn't influence the board in any negative way. I mean, mistakes have been made. I mean, it's really unfortunate with what happened with Jan Harzan. I mean, Jan Harzan, I thought, was a really good director for MUFON. And then that sex scandal thing came up, and, you know, he was out. But they didn't waste any time. I mean, as soon as they realized that, you know, he'd done something wrong that was unforgivable.
Well, I mean, I don't want to ask about that, but
he was
I was thinking a situation like that, if the government agents want to remove a good person, they could set this up and tempt him, and for the very purpose of removing it. Someone on the outside would wonder about that.
Well, there's certainly a possibility that happened. I have no information whatsoever to either support or reject that as a you know, actual working hypothesis. I just see what you're saying. It's possible that someone could have set him up. I don't know, but the problem is simply that once something like that happens, you just can't have the person involved anymore, because, you know, then, you know, the bad apple ruins the whole barrel, right? You just the association is damaging.
Yeah, but I'm saying if I'm the American government and I want to suppress the truth about UFOs, why not just go and damage that MUFON? They're a really good director. I'll take him out, you know, to tempt him with this, and I'm doing my job. I'm suppressing UFOs. That's what I'm supposed to do.
Well, you know, the organization has enough strength overall that it can do without a person like Jan. And Jan did some good things, but he also did a lot of things that I didn't agree with. He, remember I was talking about that one symposium where they invited all those weird speakers that I wasn't too happy about?
Right.
That was largely his doing. He arranged all that, a lot of people were upset with him about that. So, you know, I don't know.
I think it's good to talk about the business of ufology and conferences. It's good to talk
Right.
about all this, you know.
Well, what he did that was good was he created a lot of relationships with people in the media and got the things going, like the Hangar One show and some of those other things that attracted a lot of attention and got, you know, the people that watch shows like that got their attention and put MUFON out there in a way that got a lot of people interested in joining. Now, honestly, a lot of those people probably have come and gone. Only a few of them have really stuck with the organization, but still, I thought mostly it was good publicity for us. And you know, that was something that Jan did that was good. So, you know, you can't always say that just because somebody made some terrible mistake that nothing they did was good, because that's not true certainly of Jan. He did some good stuff. And I was very sad to hear about this incident, and don't understand how he got himself into such a weird predicament, but it is what it is, you know?
If I was interested in joining MUFON myself, I'm afraid of all the work. I got to do all this field work. I got to do. I have to work. Is that what it means if I was to join MUFON?
You can just be a member,
okay,
and just read the news, you know, the monthly journal, and enjoy the benefits of being in touch with the organization.
Well,
I mean, not everyone that joins MUFON becomes a field investigator. I mean, you know, I can, and I'll tell you one thing. I've gone through a lot of people who said they wanted to be field investigators, and then got into it a little bit and maybe tried to do a few cases, and pretty soon they're saying, "Oh, this isn't for me. I can't do it."
well,
Or some of them, they don't even bother to tell me. They just stop answering my phone calls and emails and just disappear on me. It's very frustrating.
I guess that's human nature. Is it because it's work? It's not as glamorous like being interviewed by the media after UFO. Is it just a lot of work? What disenchants people, do you think?
I'm not really sure. I think part of it is just they find out that it's hard dealing with people. I understand this because I deal with a lot of people that, you know, they don't answer email. And I try phone, I leave a message, they don't call me back. And so nowadays I try everything. I try texting. I try to find them on Facebook, send a Facebook message. I do everything that I can to try to reach out and get in touch with people, because I think in a way some people are they're just so overloaded with social media and all that stuff. You know, their email inbox is so full of spam, they don't even want to deal with it.
Yeah.
We
all know that.
They get so many junk phone calls, they don't want to deal with that. And it's really hard to, you know, break through that and make sure that they know, hey, I'm actually from MUFON and I really do want to talk to you about your report. And that's frustrating, and people have trouble with that. The other thing is they find out that a lot of what we do is gathering and documenting information. That's really the main function of a UFO investigator, is gathering and documenting information. Now, some people don't really understand that because they think of what scientists do. Well, if you talk to a real scientist, they do the same kind of thing. Let's say they work in a lab. Well, you can do tests in a lab, but you also have to document your results, right? You have to keep records of test results. Now, it might be done by running a computer program that's attached to your test equipment that saves it all for you. That's true, but you're still going to review the results and maybe publish a document and sign your name to it and say, this is my results from this test. And this is the kind of stuff that people don't understand. They don't realize that you know, a lot of what we do is just documenting. And some people have a real hard time with verbalizing the records of things. And that's what I look for when I'm working with someone who wants to be an investigator. If they send me an email and the way they express themselves in English is pretty poor, I will never just reject someone. I just know in my head, I say, oh, this person's never going to make it, because I know their sense of how to express themselves isn't good enough to write a report. You know, and writing a report, the way we do it in MUFON now, it's a big form. And you just have to fill in a bunch of little sections, but in the end, you have to write, I don't know, a few sentences, a paragraph or something, explaining what's your conclusion on this case. Why did you decide what you decided? And you can say, this is based on, you know, the information from the astronomy app, Heavens Above. I found that there was a satellite going over right at the time that the person saw this light, and it traveled from this direction to that direction, the same as they said, and everything adds up. You can explain things like that, right? And some people just aren't capable of doing that, and I know they're never going to be able to do the investigation. And you know, there's just and you know, I don't want to discourage people, but I also know the other thing is some people, they've had a lot of their own experiences and they want to become an investigator, but what they really want to do is find out what happened to them. And that's what
that
they
makes
focus
sense,
on all the time.
They're looking for meaning and purpose in MUFON. Maybe they'll find out what happened to me.
Right, and I keep trying to tell them, okay, whatever happened to you, you have to remember that when you're investigating someone else's sighting, you need to focus on that person's experience and not your own. And some people have a hard time about that. Because what they're really looking for is the meaning and understanding of what happened to them, and they can't get beyond that. They can't.
Maybe they're looking for someone to talk to, right?
That could be.
Yeah.
And you know, that's fine. If they just want to talk to me, they can talk to me. But as far as becoming an investigator and doing the work of becoming an investigator, that really involves being able to take your own experience, set it aside, and then focus on the one that you're working on, right?
It's so interesting that you're explaining the business of what you're doing. Like we started off with some slides about, you know, UFOs in Oregon. Now we're really getting into it. You know, we commonly do these 4-hour videos. We did one about a month ago that was 8 hours long. And the hits we get on the internet, sometimes you get more at the end. Things get better. So this is the way we do these things. I was thinking, you know, what you do with investigation. What we're doing with the UFO meetup, we do videos of experiencers, videos like, and we have like a video library. Your video, whereas your investigation is basically in print, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So we're sort of a different aspect of a similar thing. We're trying to record and build. We have a library of about 80 or 90 videos on Vancouver UFO channel on YouTube.
I think what MUFON does is very interesting because you're getting down to the nitty gritty, right? You're getting rid of the satellites, the meteors, the this, the that, getting down to what the actual lights are, you know, and how it's behaving, you know, where it was seen and all that.
Well, yeah, because
that's good. I think that's a great part of it. Because a lot of you know, there's a few websites that I look at once in a while. Mm-hmm. And you see the video and you just know it's a satellite because of the way that it's moving, but they don't know that. They've made this video and it's on the internet and it's like, oh, it's a UFO. What is that? And yet it's moving the way that you know that a satellite moves. So it's good that there's rigorous analysis from somebody, some organization, right? That will look at these things and say, well, that's what that was. That's what that was. You know,
a lot of times it's not even, we can't even be 100% certain. Sometimes it's just like, well, you know, I'm highly certain, not absolute, but I'm highly certain this is a satellite because of this, and this. Mm-hmm. But unless, you know, I really focus usually, I mean, in my own work on these cases, I'm really more interested in the ones where the person has a really clear vision of something that's got a shape and size and everything to it. Like the ones that I showed in my presentation, the chevron shaped thing that went over the guy in the hot tub, and the other one, the two guys going fishing in the early morning and they saw that light thing out in the field. Those are the ones that I find really interesting because they're not just point source lights in the sky, they're something with a shape and, you know, actual structure to it. Looks like something. It's not just, you know, whoa, whoa, tiny little light in the sky. But see, what you were saying about eliminating all the knowns and leaving the unknowns, that's really important. Because if anyone knows anything about a database, you know, one of the important things, and this could be applied to any database in business or whatever, you want data that's good data. You don't want garbage in your database. You gotta, and people talk about cleaning the data in a database. That's making sure that you have, you know, good data. I mean, you know, this could be like, you know, a business contact list, and you could have old disconnected phone numbers of customers in there. You don't want that. You want the good stuff, right? Actual living customers that might actually buy something. And the same thing with the UFOs. If someone's doing research on UFOs and they go to a MUFON and say, oh, you know, they like apply to MUFON for the right to look at some of the data in the database and analyze it, they don't want to get a bunch of cases that haven't been checked out yet and could be satellites. They want to look at actual cases that have already been, you know, gone over by an investigator and some kind of judgment made about it. Now we can't guarantee that we're always right about our conclusion. And sometimes you think you're right, and then later on you get more information and you find out, oh, wait a minute, I have to change my mind about that one. You know, that happens. It happened years ago when you know, when the stealth fighter was first trotted out, first Gulf War.
Yeah.
It was secret before that. And people were seeing them flying around Edwards Air Force Base and Area 51 where they were being tested. People were reporting them as UFOs. Well, then when the Air Force came out and said, oh yeah, this is a, you know, what it was called, the F-111. I think that was what it was. And then there was the stealth bomber too, B-2, I think it was. And all those had been secret before. But when they were publicly known, then a lot of the UFO reports that were collected back then, people went back and reviewed them all, and they said, oh yeah, these are known. They're not unknowns, they're known.
Right.
And we have the same situation now. We don't know exactly what kind of secret stuff the Department of Defense is testing. But the thing that's weird is, why would the military or the aerospace industry, why would they have people testing these black triangles over populated city?
Over Phoenix.
Yeah, or
in the
any
mayor
place
of
like
Arizona
that.
saw it.
And you have to say, that doesn't make sense. If you have a secret project, why fly those things over, you know, any like populated urban area so anyone can see it? That just doesn't make sense. And, you know, some people try to say, oh yeah, the black triangles are the TR3B. Well, I keep asking people, okay, what evidence do you have that the TR3B is an actual DoD project, other than, oh, somebody on some website said it was? That's not evidence, as far as I'm concerned. That's just hearsay. You know, so far I have yet to hear anyone give me any really solid information that says that the TR-3B is an actual DoD project. It might be, I just don't have any evidence for it. So as far as I'm concerned, those black triangles that float around silently and hover like that, I don't think we have the technology to do that. So to me, they're still unknowns.
Yeah, I agree with that. I wanted to ask you, getting back, I'd like to talk about the grays, like David Jacobs' thesis about the grays is it's negative, and mine is similar but positive. Excuse me about the cough. My feeling about the grays I want to ask you is the view that many have is that we're being genetically upgraded as hybrids gradually, and the result would be humanity will be a hybrid in the future, more peaceful, more spiritual, be a better world, and this is the way it's going. And that the grays, they're obviously, or they're doing this, they've been doing this for many decades. So it's a project coming to fruition. So all of Homo sapiens sapiens could be replaced with a hybrid human. And if that's true, and there's evidence for it, then it's a very big deal. This is like where all ufology is going. This is what it's all about. And you've been at this for 50 years. So do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I just don't buy into that 100%. I mean, it's possible that there's something like that going on. I mean, you know, I've been hearing about the hybrids, or whatever they call them, for a while. It's just, to me, it's like when you read David Jacobs, he's expressing an idea, and he's trying to say there's evidence for it. See, a lot of people, they don't understand how to think in this kind of realm of study. They hear an idea like that and they latch onto it, and all of a sudden it's become true. And they don't understand that when people talk about these things in books like David Jacobs, they're trying to give evidence for something, and it's basically a hypothesis. And
yes,
but it isn't proven, and it's very difficult to prove such a thing. I think people just jump the gun. They want to jump to conclusions too quickly on things like this, and I just don't like to buy into that kind of stuff. And you notice that a lot of people, as you expressed it, they're saying, oh, you know, they're going to be people that are more evolved on a higher spiritual plane and all that stuff. To me, that just starts sounding like wishful thinking. And, you know, that's why I don't buy into that kind of stuff. That's
fine. For me, it's a hypothesis. I have various working, like I didn't feel this way a year ago. My hypothesis is refining. But through meeting Jeff, you see, like we've got 25 videos of Jeff. He's been, I guess, my biggest influence over last year in that regard.
Yeah.
But I'm learning. I mean, I'm no expert. I'm more of a host. Like maybe we're hosting a meetup, making videos.
And it's definitely not my hypothesis at all. Yeah.
Yeah. I would
think Mimi and I have difference of views on that. But I admit I don't know, right? I'm a student, and we're just making videos. It's the biggest mystery in the world, right? UFOs is the biggest mystery in the world.
Well, one of the things is if you have a single source like Jeff, you can study him and you know, record everything he tells you. But I think you've got to go and study some other people and their impressions, and compare and contrast, and try to understand it from different viewpoints.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that. I have my studying to do. See, my way to go about it is get all these people on our Vancouver UFO meetup Zoom, let's get 20 of them on here, and 3 years from now, I'll come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
We had L.A. Marzulli visited us one night, and it really spurred a very interesting discussion, because he comes from a biblical sense where, you know, he feels that all aliens are demonic, fallen angels, and you know, and stuff. And that was a very, very interesting take on that. And I'm really open to a lot of different points of view, because
Right.
I want to come to a conclusion at some point. I want to
Yeah,
come to a conclusion.
too.
The
I wanna
conclusion
know.
I have now is that there's many agendas.
Right.
That's the way I look at it. Like
Right.
there's so many agendas, it seems.
One of the things that I'm always, I have a strong feeling about, strong opinion about, is not letting ufology, or the pursuit of knowledge about UFOs, become a cult or religious type thing. And I kind of jealously guard our like MUFON sessions against that sort of thinking, because I don't want people to start thinking of it as that type of thing. I don't trust people who set themselves up as a leader on a level of like a cult leader type person. We have people like that around here. I've encountered them. I dealt with them. And I just really don't like to let things, I mean, I know that after all these years with Oregon MUFON, people do look up to me as a leader, as as an expert perhaps in the field. But I want to make sure people know that, I just want people to have free and open discussion about these various ideas. And I don't want people to start thinking that, you have to adopt a certain belief system to participate in this organization or in this whole field of endeavor. Because to me, that's not a healthy way of thinking about it. And, so I shy away from people who take a very religious view of things and start interpreting things biblically, or, oh, this demonic and all that stuff. I just really trying to stay away from that kind of stuff.
Yeah, me
I don't
too.
think it's healthy.
Yeah. Richard Dolan said, if you study ufology from a preconceived biblical view, well, that's not evidence. That's not about evidence. You should just
No.
follow the data and look at the evidence.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, how about Stephen? Hey, Stephen, you're hanging there all of our videos, and right at the end, Stephen says something. Do you want to talk, Stephen?
Well, what's that saying about sometimes silence is golden?
Well, break your silence, Stephen.
Well,
How long have you known Tom? How long have you known Tom?
I physically went to a meeting some years back. I think Tom overall has a good point, and you got to keep things in balance, and that's the problems with probably ufology, is you get these. It's almost like a wave of thought, and then you get people that seem to come in like there's a vacuum there, so they get sucked in, and then they start going off a certain tangent, and before you know it, the facts are lost, and it becomes more like some kind of ufology cult.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we don't want. We want the truth, and that's why you have to stay objective. And like even myself, the years I've had sightings, I mean, I think about it after I have experience, and I know enough about the satellites, and of course now we have the internet where we can actually go to sites and see where it's actually live satellite, and it shows actually the trajectory and its altitude and where it's at, and so you can actually see if there was something over an area other than what you've seen. And then I live where there's lots of air traffic. I mean, we get some military air traffic, and we get lots of commercial and lots of civil, and we get everything from even at times large drones that come over. And then I see many times, because right where I happen to be is a good area where there's open sky, and I'll see sometimes as many as 5 commercial airplanes coming in with their landing lights. And if the average person's seen that, they go, what's going on? Because they look like they're just sitting there, and then they come in one, across the sky and everything, and Usually you can tell by the degree of angle where about their altitude is, and then you can go on flight radar 24, and you can actually see what, in other words, with the cursor you can put that over the plane and you can see what plane it is. I never planned on it. I mean, I've seen stuff during the day and all different hours, and a lot of times I'm an outdoor person somewhat, but I'm not always out there looking, and it's really strange some of the things I've seen in the sky. And of course, now with all these different satellites that are up there, you got to really watch it. But once you know what satellites do, is they have a certain trajectory and a pattern, and then they go through a timing of it, you know, and so you can pretty much tell that it isn't a UFO. Because when I see UFOs, they usually power up and they'll zigzag across the sky and stop, and then they might even pulse a couple times and then take off. And it's like, no, it's not a satellite, folks.
Yeah.
And it's not something that we probably even have. It's something that's either a possibility of interdimensional craft, that they come into our dimension and the frequency will allow them to be seen at times. And then of course, depending if they want you to see it, because there's been times I've literally felt to go outside and look up, and it's like, I don't do this all the time. I mean, and I'll look up and I'll start, and I can feel it, and I say it right out to them, I know you're there. And they uncloak and then take off. And it's like, whoa, you know, the energies of it. And where I happen to live is a unique area, because even the cell phone company has actually sent their technicians out to this area with what they are is expensive frequency background analyzers, and they've had strange signals come out of this area, and they've even had nulling dead zone that they can't figure out why it would do that. You know, it's like, and so I don't know what. I live basic where there's some wetlands, and so there's water, conductivity of the earth. You know, there's a whole bunch of things that could make the difference. And then just the way that I know there's energy fields all over the world, and some areas seems to be more concentrated. And it's even like where lightning happens too. It's the same thing. There's areas that seem to get more lightning than they do others, and of course the terrain and everything. So overall, I think what it takes is people have to stay. They have to not get caught up in hype, because I think that's ruined the whole thing. And even myself, I've been interested since my childhood, because my parents were experiencers and I've been an experiencer through the years. And there's things I don't remember, and that's something that I'd like to have some type of regression. Something maybe will trigger it, because you know, like with our memories, many times that's how we remember a lot of things of our past years. Is somebody will say something about, hey, wasn't that a neat store or a place to go, or you could buy this kind of food, and then oh gosh, yeah, that was, you know, that type of thing. And I'm trying to coordinate things and get information out there. So I consider that a real labor of love, and it's
yeah, it's a labor of love.
You know, it helps keep my sanity, because I have experiences that I want to find out, and I'd like to know the absolute truth. And I used to know, I had a job where at one time I had a business where I got to talk to a lot of military people, and you'd be amazed at how many have had some kind of unusual, either paranormal or maybe even UFO experiences, but they never talk to anybody, because they usually figure, you know, their wife don't want to hear it, and
they're told not to talk about it.
That's right. Yeah. You know, so they have to be very careful. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay. I know Marie is here. I thought we'd bring Marie. Is here in the Vancouver area. I met her with Terry Tabano's Synthetic Group. So Marie, I know you don't have a camera, but you can speak to us.
Yes, I hope you can hear me right.
Yes.
Hello.
Well, my experience with MUFON comes back to 20 years ago about, and I came back from work, got home, and went on the balcony, and for some reason it was daytime summer, and I would look up the sky. I would do that at night to look at the stars, but for some reason it was daytime summer. I looked up, and then I saw that thing, and I couldn't, my brains didn't work. It's like, what is this? And there was no answer for it. And I looked at it, and by the time I thought, what am I looking at? By the time my brain thought, you know, realized, okay, I'm looking at something that is not usual. By that time I realized that that thing just flew or skipped the sky. My eyes couldn't keep up. It went so fast. It was unbelievable. I'm facing east, and that thing disappeared to south. And I was absolutely floored. Actually, I'm a pretty strong person, and I had to sit down. I knew there was something really incredible I saw. So the next day I confided to a friend, colleague of mine, and he said, you got to report that to MUFON, which I did. And gave a lot of details. They asked me lots of questions, I remember, and it's a long time ago, but I remember just like if it was yesterday. And a few days after that, to my surprise, MUFON called me back to tell me that the police cruiser reported the same thing. So that was a great relief, right? I wasn't the only one to see that. And actually a police cruiser just reported it also to MUFON. And that kind of started a thing. Like, I'm absolutely fascinated with the subject. And after that, I joined to the CSTD group. And anyway, in between the time I saw this UFO and got to the CSTD group, in between I saw a documentary about the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier, those Tic Tacs UFO things. That is exactly what I saw that day. It was those Tic Tac thing, that this perfect done documentary about the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier was done. That's exactly what I saw.
So where, Mary, where did you see it?
I live in North Vancouver. I'm Lower Lonsdale, and I face east. And it was just, I don't know, I'm on the 4th floor. And what I saw was, maybe if it was a building, I would say 30 floors, 40 floors up. Not that far, not that far, you know, pretty high up, but not that far up. It was very distinct. The way I saw it, it was facing east. The light of the west would shine, the sun would shine on that object. So I saw it orange, like it was a metallic thing, and the sun would reflect on it because it would see the west side as I was on the east. So it was very clear to me. It was like a metallic object shaped like a Tic Tac, as big as a bus or bigger. It's really hard to tell, but it wasn't that far up. By the time I looked at it, by the time I realized there was something really different, that thing was just zoomed toward the south, and I could barely keep up with the speed of it. It was unbelievable. It was amazing. Yeah.
Wow, what an account. Gee, we got to get you on camera next time to tell us this.
Yeah.
So Tom, our esteemed guest, any questions for Tom or comments? We've been at it 4 hours. We just got started.
Yeah. I just love to listen to all that. It's, you know, it brings confidence, and there's so many people who see things, don't report it. It's unbelievable. Most of people I talk to, they have experiences. It's great that MUFON is there to report what people see, because where else can we talk to, right? I really appreciated that feedback from MUFON when I saw that, because honestly, I was wondering if I was crazy or something. And just to have the report back that someone else saw it, it was really a big relief. Yeah.
Well, that's something that I find is one of the most often asked questions when people are reporting a UFO sighting. That's the first thing they'll want to know. Did anyone else see this?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
I always have to explain to people that I only know what people report. If no one reports a UFO, then I don't know about it. And if there could be 10, 20 potential witnesses and one person reports it to MUFON, and then I have one report and I don't know if anyone else saw it. So, you know, if we could get to a place where people in general wouldn't feel embarrassed about reporting UFOs to someone, then we'd have lots of multiple witness sightings, because I'm sure there are a lot more people that see UFOs than there are people who report their sightings to anyone.
At least 10 times, maybe 50 or 100 times.
Yeah,
many.
there's no way to know the number, because, you know, it's like was famously said, we don't know what we don't know. We only know what we do know.
Yeah.
And
And
then
there's known unknowns. What did Donald Rumsfeld say? There's
Rumsfeld,
there's
yes.
unknown unknowns, then there's known unknowns, and there's known knowns. So let's just bomb the Middle East anyways.
So, you know, the one thing that I will do is often if I get a sighting and someone's, you know, sure that someone else must have seen this, and it's the kind of thing where, yeah, it's up in the sky and there's multiple potential witnesses, I will go to the, pardon me, Peter Davenport's site, and I'll try to find, try to see if there's a matching sighting. The unfortunate thing is Peter's reports don't go straight to the website. He screens them first, and he gets behind, and he'll get 2-3 weeks behind sometimes, because he gets his reports from telephone, voicemails, and he also gets emails, and he has to screen out all the crank calls and abusive emails and stuff, and throw stuff away and pick out the ones that are worth reporting and put them on his site. So that's a time-consuming job, and he gets pretty far behind. And so a lot of times I have to wait 2-3 weeks or more before I even see whether there's anything matching. But I do always try to check that. And lo and behold, I had that sighting I talked about earlier tonight with the two women in Eastern Oregon who they don't know each other. They were completely separate, in separate places, but they saw the, well, I'm sure the same thing at the same time, but just based on their observation, the way they were facing and everything, it looks to me like they were seeing the same thing at the same time. Now, one of the women, she couldn't believe that someone in North Powder could have seen the same thing that she saw. Well, that's because she didn't realize she was seeing something that was very large and very high in the air. And so it was able to be seen over a wide area. But it's rare to find a case, you know. And then I had the earlier case from 2003. I talked about the triangular regression. I managed to find a second witness to that just by putting up those posters around the neighborhood. It's pretty rare to actually have a case where you have multiple independent witnesses. I mean, it's more
love
common
the
to
idea
have
of the poster. Believe me, that was, you know, that really, that's a great way. It's a great way. I never even thought of doing that.
You just have to make sure that the person that responds to the poster isn't confabulating
Yes.
the story based on what you see. And you really want to make sure that you feel strongly that the person's sincere. That's
Right.
the only caveat with that.
You'd have to have some kind of a little trick in there to make sure.
or just have a good feeling about the person, like, you know, well, this person has no motive to make up a story. They're not
Mhm.
accomplishing anything by making up a story. They're not attracting any attention. I'm not putting them on TV or anything. They're just telling me what happened. You know?
That was my experience. The fact that MUFON called me back to tell me that a police cruiser reported it also. I mean,
Yeah.
how can you beat that? That was
Yeah.
really amazing. Yeah.
Well, I told my two witnesses out in Eastern Oregon, I told them both about that there was another witness, but I wanted to give them a chance to talk to each other, but only one of them agreed to do that. The other one wouldn't respond after the first couple of times I talked to her. So since I couldn't get them both to agree to communicate with one another, I had to not pursue that because it wouldn't be right to give out the phone number of one person to the other one unless they both agree to it.
That's a good point. I wish I would have talked to those cops.
Yeah.
Tom, of course, would know about this, but MUFON actually has maps of the U.S. and I think even it gets into Europe and other parts of the world, and you can see there's what do they call them there. In other words, there's the map will show if there's been sightings reported.
Yeah.
And you click on like if it's a UFO or if it looks like an alien, it's an abduction, and that's a way too that you can follow what's being reported to MUFON.
Yeah.
So you have to be a member to see those maps?
No,
No?
I was amazed at how actually many things that they have on their site, or at least some of them, is actually just open to the public to where you can do some research without even being part of MUFON.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just thinking for reporting, maybe come up with a program. Of course, again, you can always have somebody that tries to abuse something good, but have something like like you can get this program up and it'll show basically where you're at. In other words, maybe the locale of the state, and then it's where with your cursor, or if you got a cell phone, of course, it works differently, but you can actually click on like is it a report? Are you reporting a object or something that looks like a craft, or did you have an experience with some type of being? And try to streamline it in a way that it makes it where, because some people aren't good at filling out forms. You know, they get intimidated by them, and before you know it, they start thinking about, nah, I'll do it some other time, or you know, they don't do it. But if you could have it where it was streamlined, and then of course have it where you put the pertinent information, you know, approximately the time and what was the sky looking like and all the things that way, I think that might help for reporting.
Well, I don't know, but what you're describing is what MUFON already has.
Right.
You know, it's
Yeah.
They've made it now so it works on mobile devices.
Yeah.
I sometimes I don't find the user interface that great, but then again,
Right.
I'm not much of a mobile device user. I
Yeah.
mean, I use my phone for certain things, but
Yeah.
I don't use it a lot for that type of thing.
Sure.
And you know, the problem is with that type of it. As an investigator, when I get reports that don't have enough information, it's very frustrating. And a lot of times people just, if you don't ask enough questions, they won't give you enough information, and it gets to the point where it's almost pointless.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need it.
I mean, like, to give you an example, Facebook, you know, so I go on Facebook, the Oregon MUFON Facebook page, and people are always putting stuff out there. They'll put a photo and they say, oh, look at this UFO photo I took. And they don't tell you where, when, or anything. And I think, well, what am I supposed to do with that? I just pretty much ignore them now, because if I ask too many questions, and they get annoyed, you know. But they don't really understand anything about what the, you know, the whole idea is about ufology and the pursuit of understanding, more understanding about it. if you don't gather information, you're not getting anywhere, you know?
Mhm.
Well, they don't have a seriousness about it.
That's
You know,
true.
That's
For them,
what
it's
you,
just fun. It's just, you
yeah,
know, it's just, oh, maybe attention getting or whatever. I don't know.
right. And that's what I was getting at too is like you were saying earlier about Peter Davenport's site. That's one of the downfalls of it is it isn't instant enough, because there's even times when I've had sightings and I'll go there and look to see if, but I usually have to wait, maybe several weeks, and then I'll go back and I'll see if there was anything that maybe someone else had reported seeing too. So, yeah. All right.
Well, hey, Tom, we really want to, perhaps we can work together more in the future. We'd love to have you back. And also we can make any connections, like if any guests in Oregon, because because of COVID, we used to meet in a local library here. Now with COVID, we're on Zoom. Now we're Zoom, we're open up to the world. So it's not about Vancouver anymore. So if you recommend any guests, we'd love to have you back. So maybe we'll keep connecting, because you're neighbors of ours, Alita, I've invited Alita from Washington MUFON on, we'll work out her schedule, but yeah, we feel this growing relationship with MUFON. I think I'll join myself. So we really appreciate it, Tom.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tom. That was
Well, I had a
great.
great time.
Thank you,
Learned
Tom.
a lot about it.
Always appreciate the hard work
Yeah.
put
Thanks.
in. Your presentations, that's one of the things I'd like to do with even my experiences, but I tried getting something set up and then somehow I lost it. I
do a lot of saves. I start writing stuff and then I save and then I write a little more and save.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Computers. I've worked with computers for a long time. I was a programmer, analyst for many years, working in the banking business, and and so I kind of have a love-hate relationship with computers.
I hear you.
But you have to like you have a strategy for dealing with them, because they can be picky sometimes.
Yeah, they can get glitches of some type that for whatever reason.
Well, I think it's
we'll get this video posted.
Yeah, I've lost a lot of writing that way too.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Great time.
I guess that.
I'm about to turn into a pumpkin here, so.
Yeah.
We'll say good night. Really
Take care.
appreciate it.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Tom.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Appreciate you being.
Come again, Tom.
Nice hearing you.
Bye.
Bye.